UAN's standard layout for printing forms 1099 NEC, 1099 MISC, and the 1096 forms corresponds to the IRS guidelines. Most UN customers have no problem printing to these forms, which you can do by simply following the instructions in the UN year-end procedures to add, edit if needed, and print. But that's not the focus of our video today. Occasionally, there are some 1099 forms available from print companies that do not exactly fit the IRS format, even some which are advertised as IRS certified or IRS approved. This means, for instance, the vendor name or other data could print to the wrong place on the form. Given that possibility, after you have added and made any necessary edits, we recommend printing just one page of data to the form so you can confirm that the standard layout corresponds to your pre-printed form layout from your print company. That way you don't waste a large batch of forms. If all the fields print to the right places on the first form, you can confidently print larger batches, no problem. Otherwise, if you detect there is a problem, UEN does provide a means to customize the print layout of each of these forms. This should only be done when absolutely necessary and only when your pre-printed forms have some minor variations from the standard IRS layout. So let's assume that's the case for our 1099 NEC today. So I'll go ahead and close these out. Assume we've already done our test and found that there was a problem with our NEC. Where would we do that? Well, you can access the customizer or the form designer under General, Maintenance, and then Entity Setup. That'll open up the Entity Setup form. And from there, you want to click on the Forms tab. On this page of the form, it lists the NEC, the MISC, and the 1096 separately. By default, all the forms are set to print using the IRS standard layout, and again, that works fine for most UAN customers. Like I said, we'll assume that our 1099 NEC pre-printed forms are slightly different and we need to customize a bit. So to do that, I'll start by selecting Use Custom Layout, then click on, after I confirm the year, click on the Design button. That's going to open up a separate window, the Form Designer. The left side of the Form Designer is for customizing the layout. That's where you can move things around a little bit. In this case, the fields are separated to 4 tabbed pages along the left side. Starting with the overall outline of the form, then there's a separate tab for each of this 3-part NEC form. So there's the overall. It starts out with the overall layout of the form. And then we've got part 1, part 2, part 3. Switch back here to part 1. And you can see on the right side, well, first I should point out that it fills each of the fields with some generic township information, just so that at a glance you can get an idea of what data is going to fill in that spot on the form. On the right side, we have a print preview window so that you can see how any changes that you make to a particular section will look when you go to print the form. So you can get an idea of where it's going to print to before you actually print. So back here on part 1, let's say that we need to make an adjustment. To move a field, simply click on that field, see how it highlights, hold the mouse button down, and drag and drop. What I mean by drag and drop is pull it down a little bit, then let go of the mouse, and it'll move it a little bit. Now you have to keep in mind that moving one field will not automatically move any of the other fields. So let's say this phone number needed to actually go upward a little bit. If all I do is drag and drop that phone number, it's going to overlap my address fields. And so actually all of those fields in our little situation need to move up a little bit. Well, how do we move several fields at the same time? Well, I'll show you a little trick to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on one field and then hold the mouse button, hold the control button on your keyboard down with one finger, and then click each of the fields that you want to move together. So I'm going to click them one at a time, just a single click until I have all of them selected like that. Then I can let go of the control button and click on that group of fields with my mouse, click and hold, move the mouse downward or upward, wherever it needs to be, and see how I'm dragging all three fields at the same time, and then I let go. And when you're done with that group, you just click in another spot on the form. Keep in mind, there may be a slight delay when moving several items at a time. This whole process can be a bit tricky, so it may take some practice before you get it just right. But not to worry, we've made it easy by giving you a reset button. So for example, if I accidentally select a few items here and drag them and drop them in the wrong place, I've overlapped, I don't want to just rearrange all of this. I can click on the Reset to Default button, and it's all set back to where it was. No harm, no foul. And you can start over and until you get it right. Other buttons include the Save button and Reset to Save. This one is useful, Reset to Save, if you have saved your progress, but you suddenly make a mess out of the form. Instead of resetting everything with the Reset to Default, you can reset to the last time you saved. Maybe that was good up to that point. Finally, there's the Print Test button. That helps you to avoid wasting any pre-printed forms. Just print a test page and print it just to plain paper. Hold up the test page to one of your pre-printed forms, hold it up to the light, and confirm that the data prints the fields properly as you intended. If it's still a problem, you can go back and tweak the fields in the designer. Once you're satisfied with all the adjustments, just click on Save one final time. Whenever you click on Save, you're going to get this message. It says some changes may also require clicking Save on the Entity Setup form. Well, that just means that this Save button only saves your progress in the Form Designer window that we have open right now. After you close this window, and I'll do that now, then you need to make sure that you also click the Save button in the Entity Setup form. And it gives me a little confirmation message that I've saved all my changes on the Entity Setup form. I can double check by clicking on the Forms tab again, and I see that it's still set to custom layout. And if I really wanted to, I could click on that Design button again to confirm that. Now, if for any reason you need to switch back to a standard layout, you can always do that by clicking on Use Standard Layout and then saving the entity setup again. That's all there is to it. Don't forget to report all of your UEN training for Fiscal Integrity Act credit. Following the Auditor State's guidelines and deadlines on the training.